The grease was already popping when she reached for the flour. No measuring cup, no recipe card, just a hand that had done it 10,000 times. I am not talking about cooking, I am talking about fishing. Because on the banks of American rivers there were tricks so strange that if you told someone today, they would call you a liar to your face. But every single one of them worked, and science now explains why. Your grandfather did these things without knowing the real reason. He learned by watching, repeated them his whole life, and wrote nothing down. And when he was gone, he took with him the knowledge I am giving you back. Spitting on the bait before casting was the first sacred gesture. Every old fisherman in America did this, and everyone assumed it was superstition. But researchers found that human saliva contains digestive enzymes that release amino acids when they contact the protein in the bait. Those amino acids dissolve in water and create a chemical trail that species like catfish and carp detect from yards away underwater. Your grandfather spit on his night crawler without knowing biochemistry. He just knew that when he spit on the bait, he caught more fish, period. The industry sells scent attractants for $12 to $15 a bottle. Your grandfather carried the attractant inside his own mouth his whole life, rubbing raw garlic on the hook, and the line was the second ritual. He would cut a clove of garlic in half and rub it on the steel of the hook. Then he rubbed his garlic fingers on the first few feet of the line. It sounded crazy, but allicin in garlic is a volatile sulfur compound that spreads through water like an invisible cloud around the bait. Bottom feeders like channel catfish and flatheads have thousands of receptors spread across their entire body, not just the mouth, but the skin and whiskers. Allicin triggers those receptors like a dinner bell ringing underwater. Garlic costs 50 cents at the grocery store and outperforms brand attractants. But no tackle shop will ever recommend something that costs 50 cents. Mixing bread with cotton was the trick that solved the problem every beginner faces, and nobody at the tackle shop will help you fix. Bread bait falls off the hook in seconds, and you waste the whole cast. The old-timers took a pinch of cotton ball the size of a dime and kneaded it into the bread until it formed a sticky dough. The cotton created a mesh of fibers inside the dough that gripped the hook. The bait stayed firm for minutes, and the fish could not tear it off clean. No shop teaches this because they want you to buy pre-made dough bait. Your grandfather solved it with breakfast bread and cotton from the cabinet. These tricks I am showing you are just the surface of what exists. I spent months gathering everything the industry buried about fishing and put it all in the Angler's Vault in the first link below. The homemade baits that outperform anything on the shelf every time. The natural attractants your grandfather used without knowing the science. The water reading techniques that no fish finder can ever replace. And the species secrets that only lifelong fishermen ever passed down. Everything in one place, no fluff, straight to the point. First link in the description. But stay here because this video has much heavier tricks coming up. Welcome to American Fishing, the channel that digs up the knowledge the tackle industry buried, so they could keep selling you more. If you are new here, subscribe now and hit the bell so you never miss a single secret we reveal every week. Using chicken liver dried in the sun was the catfisherman's trick that turned a cheap piece of guts into the most powerful bait on the river. They bought fresh liver at the butcher for pennies and cut it into strips. They let it dry in the sun for a full day on a screen or newspaper. The dehydrated liver turned tough and rubbery and would not fall off the hook. But the secret was what happened when it touched the water again. The dried liver rehydrated, slowly releasing concentrated blood and purine compounds that are the exact chemical signals. Bottom feeders used to locate wounded prey or organic matter on the riverbed. It was a scent bomb that kept working for over an hour in the water. While fresh bait dissolves in minutes, the dried liver held firm. Channel cats over 10 pounds would rise from the bottom just to investigate. Today you buy manufactured catfish bait for $8 a tub. Your grandfather bought chicken liver for less than $1. His results were better, and his investment was almost nothing at all. Fishing with crickets was the trick that children learned first. Before any professional rod, the kid would go into the yard to hunt crickets. You lifted a rock or an old board and grabbed 3 or 4 of them, put them in a tin can with holes in the lid, and carried them to the creek. The cricket on the water surface made a desperate leg-kicking motion. That created vibrations, perfectly imitating an insect falling in the water. Largemouth bass and crappie attacked from below, like missiles, without thinking. The cricket vibration triggered the lateral line of the predator fish, which detects movement in water before it can even see the prey. Topwater artificial lures try to imitate exactly this movement. One of those lures costs $15, $20, even $30 each. A cricket from the yard cost an entire childhood of fun and fish. The industry copied what nature gave for free and charged a fortune for it. Slapping the water 3 times before casting the line was the craziest trick on the list and the one that caused the most arguments. Half the fishermen said it scared the fish away completely. The other half swore it attracted them every single time. The second half was right, and science explains exactly why. The impact of your hand on the surface creates a pressure wave that travels through water at a speed 4 times faster than through air. Curious species like bluegill and crappie approach to investigate the sound. The noise imitates fruit falling in water or other fish feeding nearby. In the Mississippi Delta, the old-timers did this with a stick. They slapped the water 2 or 3 times and waited 5 minutes in silence. The fish came toward the sound thinking food was falling from above. No fish finder in the world does what a hand slapping water does for free. Each one of these tricks died a little when the old-timers stopped going. If one of them brought somebody back, leave a like and tell me which one. Because in the next part, I am showing you the heaviest tricks of all. A rusty hook catches more fish than a shiny new one right out of the package. That sounds like a joke, but it was a belief so strong among the old-timers that many of them left hooks on purpose inside damp tin cans to build a layer of rust before their next trip to the river. The explanation is that iron oxide releases metal ions into the water that mimic the smell of blood and decomposing organic matter around the hook. Predator fish like largemouth bass and flathead catfish follow that chemical trail thinking there is wounded prey or a food source sitting right there. A shiny chrome hook releases nothing and actually reflects light that can spook wary fish in clear water conditions. Your grandfather never bought a new hook when the old one still worked. It was not frugality, it was wisdom he could never quite explain. Today, the industry sells hooks with special anti-oxidation coating. They charge you more to remove the exact thing that made the hook work. Pre-baiting a spot with raw rice the night before was planning. While everyone else showed up at the lake in the morning hoping for luck, the old-timer had gone the night before and tossed 2 handfuls of raw rice. The rice sinks to the bottom and releases starch for hours in the water. That starch attracts microorganisms that attract small bait fish that attract bigger fish in a food chain he assembled by himself overnight. By morning, when he sat on the bank, the spot was already primed and loaded. The fish were already circling below in the buffet he created for them. A pound of rice costs $1 and pre-baits a spot for an entire week. Commercial chum costs $12 and lasts 2 days at the most. Your grandfather invested pennies and created a spot that worked for days. The industry needed a laboratory to make something worse and charge more. Using black sewing thread instead of fishing line was the trick everyone thought was ridiculous until they tried it in dark water. In muddy rivers and stained lakes, the transparent fishing line actually reflects light and creates a glare the fish can see from far away. Black sewing thread disappears completely in dark stained water. It becomes invisible precisely where the expensive line becomes visible. The old-timers did not understand optics, but knew they caught more with black. Sewing thread cost pennies at the general store back in the day. Fluorocarbon invisible fishing line costs $20 a spool today. One disappears in dark water and the other glows like a neon sign. Guess which one the industry pushes as the better option for you? Storing worms in coffee grounds inside a tin can was preservation. Worms died fast in the heat, inside plastic bags and containers. But inside damp coffee grounds, they survived for days without any problem. The grounds maintained the right moisture level and kept temperatures lower, while also feeding the worms that ate the organic remains in the coffee. When you pulled a worm out of the grounds, it came out fat and active. A fat worm, wriggling on the hook, is irresistible to any fish in the water. A skinny, half-dead worm on the hook does not fool anything anywhere. Your grandfather always had live, healthy worms because he knew how to store them. You buy worms at the bait shop, and they die before you reach the lake. Wrapping a small square of pantyhose around cheese on the hook was the invisible trap the old-timers used for trout and panfish. They cut a small square of used pantyhose from their wife's drawer, put a piece of cheese or chicken liver in the center of the square, tied it shut with the line, forming a tiny pouch around the hook. The cheese inside the pantyhose released scent and oils into the water, but the fish could not tear the bait off because the fabric held it firm. It kept biting and pulling until it hooked itself on the bare hook point. It was a patience trap that worked while you were not even watching. Trout and bluegill over a pound fell for this trick every single time. The industry invented mesh bait holders based on the exact same principle and charges $10 for a pack of what your grandmother threw away. Rubbing a candle on the line to prevent tangles was maintenance. The old-timers took a plain white candle and ran it along the reel line. The wax created a thin coating that reduced friction between the lines and prevented those cursed knots that make you waste half an hour. The line cast smooth and retrieved without snagging or bird nesting. Today they sell line conditioning spray for $12 a can. Your grandfather solved the same problem with a $1 candle. The spray runs out in a week, and the candle lasts months of fishing trips, but the tackle shop will never point you toward the candle aisle. Using chicken guts as chum was the nastiest trick on the list, and probably the single most effective for fishing big rivers for cats. The old-timers got guts for free from the butcher after slaughter day. They reached the river and tossed a handful of guts into the current. About 60 feet upstream from where they planned to fish. The guts drifted down, floating and sinking, releasing a trail of blood and animal fat that the current spread directly to the fishing spot. Flathead, channel cat, and blue catfish rose from the bottom following it. In less than 30 minutes, the spot was boiling with big catfish. No store-bought chum creates that effect in a strong river current. The guts cost $0 because the butcher was throwing them out anyway. Your grandfather caught the biggest fish in the river with the butcher's trash. The industry needs you to forget that so they can sell $12 chum. Think about what I just told you during these minutes right here. Every one of those tricks was born from observation and real necessity. None came from a laboratory, and none came from a brand marketing team. They came from men and women who needed to put food on the table, and each one works today exactly as well as it worked 50 years ago. The entire industry depends on the hope that these tricks die out forever. Because you cannot package a grandfather's wisdom in a box and sell it. Every subscription and every share keeps alive what the industry buries. Subscribe to American Fishing and hit the bell so you never miss anything. And if you want the complete old-timer arsenal all in one place, the homemade baits, the secret attractants, the penny chum recipes, and the species tricks that only passed from grandfather to grandson, it is all in the Angler's Vault in the first link below. Click now and take back what the industry wants you to forget. See you next video, and next time, listen to what your grandfather said.